we're going to continue our study of Mareh Yaakov. As every week, we're going to go over something from the week's Parsha. And this week we read Bahar and Bechukotai. We talk in those Parshas about Shemitah and Yovel. And one of the difficult things that's going to happen at Yovel is you're going to come to a Shemitah year, so you're going to come to a 7th year where they're not going to plant, and then you're going to come to a Yovel year, and then, so that's 2 years in a row that you haven't planted, and then you're going to have to plant and wait until that year's crop is harvested. So you're going to have to wait almost 3 years between the last time you've harvested and when you're going to get food.
So you're not dead yet. Yeah.
So the question is, how are you going to manage to survive that? And the sentence answers, "V'tziviti et birchati lachem." I'm going to command my blessing that the food will last. Now the question is this a future something that is going to happen every year, or is this that there is an original blessing and it's going to stay with the land? It's part of the prima facie conditions of the land, the actual way that the land is designed.
So why do you like the contrast so much?
So the question is, the blessing that you're going to have food for the 9th year,
or whatever, yeah,
that your food is going to last you for years 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah.
So God says He's going to command a blessing on the land. Is He going to command it every Yovel year? Or is it already something that's happened at the beginning?
Right.
And we're going to learn the answer by seeing exactly where the note is placed. So, remember...
You're Mareh, what's your Hebrew name? What's your Hebrew name?
I'm not going to take away from...
It's not taking away, he inspired you.
I'm not going to take away. So, you can say it, but
what's your Hebrew name? I just want to know your Hebrew name. Jeff? No, Jeff.
Yosef Yishai.
That's Hashem's name? Oh my God.
So, in any case, when we have a word, a verb that begins with a letter Vav, what the Vav does is it changes the tense from past tense to future tense. However, when the Vav is going to be a Vav Hipuch, when it's going to change the tense of the verb from past to future, then there is also a change in the accented syllable. The accent goes on the last syllable, not on the syllable that would be normally accented in that word. So, Vavarti, Beretz Mitzrayim, V'layla Zeh, V'hiketi, Kol Bechor, those ones are Vav Ha'ipuch. When you change instead of V'hiketi to V'hiketi, Vavarti, that is the correct pronunciation when you're going to use the Vav Ha'ipuch, because it tells you that you've done something to the verb.
It mirrors the whole idea that
the note is placed in a different place. There are letters that are exceptions to this, but in most verbs, this is what happens.
And does it go from the first syllable to the second? Because that would really mirror.
It goes to the last syllable.
So that's in keeping with from the past. Even you see what I'm saying? That's good. Yeah.
So the word again we're looking at is V'tziviti, and I am going to command my blessing upon the land, V'tziviti.
When would you say V'tziviti? Just normally?
So normally, if you were going to pronounce it, it would be V'tziviti. And I'm going...
So what does that mean?
And that would mean CVT, past tense.
I commanded?
I commanded in the past. However, if we're going to use Vav Ha'ipuch, it's going to be V'tziviti.
So you only know
the accent is going to be on the last syllable if it's going to change from past to future.
And that's the only way you know is Vav Ha'ipuch.
That is the way that you know.
That's the way you know, right?
So, that is the way that you know. And we know from Masorah that there are some where that is changed. We know that this is where the accent goes. So in this one, so in this instance, The question is the original question that I asked. Is this an original blessing that's given to the land that stays there from the beginning? Or is this something that's going to happen every year? So if vitsiviti, with the accent on the last syllable, you're turning it from a past tense into a future tense, then what that means is every time a Yovel comes around, God is going to command that you'll have enough to last for the 3 years. So if the accent is on the last syllable, then it means it's going to happen every Yovel cycle. God is going to command this blessing. On the other hand, if this is something that God has done from the beginning, it's the way the land is, and it's there, and He doesn't need to intervene every Yovel cycle, the accent is going to be on the normal way that you would accent this word, vitsiviti. So any thoughts? Where's the accent?
On the tav.
The accent is not on the tav. The accent is on the vav. The accent is that this is the way the land is from the beginning. God has set up the land of Israel such that it already has this blessing of the Yovel cycle built into it. It's not something that's going to happen every Yovel cycle.
It's not dependent on our actions or anything.
God is going to intervene. It is dependent on God has given this to the land from the beginning. And we learn this lesson because there is a Masorah that the note goes there, not there.
The note or the accent? Oh, the accent is the note. Or the
note and the accent, yes.
Slowly, for me, if you could say the two words where
vitsiviti, vitsiviti.
It's like the accent's on the wrong syllable, you know.
And the one where it's on the...
So if it's vitsiviti, that means you've changed a past tense verb into a future tense verb, which means that every time a Yovel cycle happens, God is going to have to intervene and give this blessing. That's not the way this happens.
Oh.
The blessing is already there from the beginning.
Right.
So that it's vitsiviti. I already did it. It's already there.
Oh, so that's why. So
that's
even though
why
you have the vav at the beginning,
the vav
which normally
is not acting here.
Is not active. Gotcha.
But wait a minute. How do we like let's take the sun, like what this, or pantheism or whatever they call it, that God created the world and then checked out. So like the sun comes up every day, right?
That's called deism.
Deism. Okay, not pantheism. Right. So the sun comes up every day. So, but God made the world that it should run that way. But on the other hand, He doesn't. I mean, God is constantly looking after the world and does make. So what does the sun? So do it vis-a-vis the sun. Let's say, does God make? Does He set up the world that way that the sun should rise every day, or does
He intervene every day?
Does He intervene every day? Makes the sun?
Where is a reference that says God intervenes every day?
No, but we just know because.
Okay. So it's
God didn't check out.
We don't. The answer is there's nothing. There's nothing.
So that's different. No, it isn't.
That's in Tehillim. That's in Tehillim.
Yeah.
So
there's another Tehillim.
But don't worry. Yeah. So number one, there's nothing that exists in the world that does not have a Torah reference to say that it exists in the world. So, if something is there, you have to look, and you have to find why it's there and where it's referenced. So, saying that we think that God refreshes everything at every moment of every day, there's a pasuk in Tehillim. Right. So we have a reference. So we don't say it's there because it's there. It's there because
well, we don't say anything is there because it's there. We say God is every minute, every minute.
So that's issue number one. Now, issue number two: can there be some things that are quote unquote built in from Bereshit?
Yes. There's those things. There's the staff of Moshe and whatever. There's the list. What are the other ones?
Sorry,
my good books. Right. That was your day. Yeah. Before the nose up. So what? The what?
So
the earthquake.
The donkey?
Yeah. So again, we have a number of things.
No, but that wouldn't be like that.
We have a number of things that were created originally and are quote unquote part of the system. and
But
they don't
what
need.
does it matter if it's one of those two? I mean, either way, it comes out.
What
that
does
you
what
still
does
have
it? So what's the difference between CVT, bit CVT, and bit CVT?
No, I understand that.
The answer is, with the rain, your acknowledgement of God and your obeisance to God is going to make it a good year for crops or a bad year for crops. This is something that is beyond our actions. Yovel.
But isn't there a thing, a source about that the Galut is because we didn't keep the Shemitah and Yovel years?
Yeah, this is partial.
Right. So why?
It isn't on our actions.
Because you're given it with no precondition. You're given it without you having to do anything for it. If you don't respect something that is given to you for free, then you are not worthy to receive that.
What do you mean?
Everything else that you have to earn, either you earn it or you don't earn it.
So you're saying
This
Shemitah that we'll have enough for 3 years
is not dependent on whether we were good or not.
We have the
because there were lots of Yovel cycles where they were not good, and yet we don't have
good.
Correct, and we don't have all sorts of stories through Nave about people starving in a Yovel.
But do we have stories that there was enough for the 3 years? I mean, something like that.
We don't have. So
how is that possible that we don't have? What do you? That doesn't make sense to me.
We've got a Tanakh. We've got a whole bunch of.
Forget Tanakh. I'm talking. We have historical records. There's something like Yovel or Shemitah that should be on the books that it would be written. Oh, there was a drought this year. Or
again, if there was a Yovel cycle in which the people failed and did not get food, don't you think there would be a Navi telling people off, saying, Yovel, you should have faith that God is going to give to you, even if there isn't so much this year? Don't you think it would have been recorded somewhere?
Well, that's what I'm asking you.
So the answer is, we've got all these books of Navi, these books, and it never gets recorded that somebody is telling the people off or
that there wasn't enough food for this
or that there wasn't enough food, or that there was
at the time of Elimelech the root and.
So again, there are descriptions of time of famine, but there's never a description of famine during a Yovel cycle.
Like Choni HaMagal, there's been many famines. And because of our actions. But he's saying
because if it was relevant, someone would have recorded it and mentioned it. So because it's not recorded and mentioned explicitly, you would think that you would assume that it didn't happen.
Mashiach, Mashiach will come, the Tanakh and all that. So there's some people think that we have to deserve, Mashiach, or the other people that Mashiach is going to come regardless of our actions. The way it comes will be a different story. So you're saying Yovel came and there was enough food for the 3 years, regardless if we were good or bad. Right? And that's throughout history. I mean, we've had 6,000 years of
history. We also have literature that specifically acknowledge, don't worry because you know that Hashem is going to provide during the Yovel year. Like you would think that with so much admonishment from the Nevi'im.
He's talking about pronunciation. You said admonishment or admonition.
So you would think that we would see a Navi saying, don't worry.
That Hashem has not forsaken you entirely because you'll see the Yovel, so he's still there even if he's mad at you, he's still there. There should be some message because if it's such a reliable phenomenon, it's a miracle in and of itself that's visible. So.
No, I think more than that. There would be recording if it didn't happen the way he says it happened. That would have been recorded.
Well, that's what Jen said. Because it was not, we have no evidence that it was recorded.
Complaining, saying, "Hey, wait! I thought God said we're."
Therefore, it must have happened. But if it must have happened, then there should be some kind of leverage that the Nevi'im would have used.
So the answer is we're using a false logic argument, both of us. So the answer is we don't know for sure.
Why not?
Both arguments are making an assumption that it didn't happen. Both arguments make an assumption. it didn't happen because it's not recorded, or it did happen and we know that because nobody told you to believe in it because it was coming up to that time and somebody said believe in it. So both arguments falter in the same fallacy that you're assuming that a lack of evidence proves something. So agreed. Both are logically flawed arguments, and we can't make a proof.
When Hashem makes that promise, it'll be enough for the 3 years. There's no hint in there, aside from the Trump thing, that it's still conditional on our behavior. I mean, what else is in Torah is not conditional on? We're not guaranteed anything in Torah, are we? Even Olam Haba, you have to deserve it, or
as a people, we.
Oh, Netzach Israel,
we're guaranteed. Hine lo yanum v'lo yishan shemer Israel, and they're like,
that's descriptive. I mean, you don't know exactly what that means, but
so they're.
God has forsaken it. Like in the Holocaust, a lot of people said, "Wait, God has forsaken it."
Well, not just that, but very openly in several places, like in the Parsha this week, in Kriyat Shema, he says, "If you do not."
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's a conditional.
No.
You don't take anything for granted.
So what happens? What happens to individuals and what happens to the nation is what we're talking about.
You're right. How does that what Sue said fit in?
Because that's individual. That's not.
No, it's talking the land. Oh, each farmer separately. What? Because rain rains everywhere. No, it doesn't rain on one farmer's field and not on the next farmer's field. Rain comes to Israel, maybe not so much in the Galil as the Negev or something, but no, it's not individual. Okay. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah, I do.
I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, I do. Because that would also, then therefore always tzaddik v'tov lo and rasha v'ra, which we know is not the natural order of the world. Like it's not always the reliable.
We don't know the whole story, but
we don't know the whole story, but we know that in our human experience that is not always a reliable, law of the world.
So the complicating factor is arevut, is being responsible for each other, and the question not so much is your own individual actions, but how much you have gone to try to influence others that are around you, and to bring them back as well. And if even though you were personally good, you haven't done enough to influence those around you, then that might be where you're falling down, rather than your own individual action. So it's not as simple as tzaddik v'tov lo and rasha and v'ra.
And the thing you said about the admonishment, I think stronger than the admonishment that there's no record of admonishment is there. If it didn't succeed for the 3 years, it would for sure be recorded somewhere. Hey, wait a minute, God promised, and it didn't. I mean, there'd be some record of that over the years that it didn't, and people would point to it. Maybe that's the thing, that the fact that people, and no one, you know how suspicious the Jewish people are. They would be the first to call it. Hey, wait a minute, we're tough people and can't put anything past us. There would be some that, he didn't keep his promise that way. It's hard to believe, so that's a huge Hebrew tool. Because, everyone knows about agriculture, there's not, if the Jewish people never suffered, well, first of all, we haven't been in the land for 2,000 years, so that's the thing. There was never a chance for it. Israel was basically uninhabited. Mark Twain's famous thing, for 2,000 years. So it's only in recent times that we can even prove something like that. How many Yobels have there been since the state of Israel? One, I think.
One.
And what was
70
it?
years.
So, but not everywhere. Oh, wait a minute. We're not saying, how about God says if you don't plant for, but most people didn't keep Shemitah. Maybe this condition is only if we do our part, that we do keep Shemitah and Yovel. If we're not keeping Yovel, and the kibbutzim are making products anyway, then it's a two-part bargain, God's saying you'll only have those 3 years, I'll provide for you if you do your part by keeping Shemitah and Yovel.
No, the punishment for not keeping Shemitah and Yovel is exile.
It's galus, right.
Is galus. So that's not relevant to this discussion.
Well, first of all, when would he have galus? We just got to the country, he's going to galus us right away. I mean, it's only what happened once. Let's not keep it for a couple of times, we'll see what happens.
Okay.
It's not going to be galus, whatever. So, No, but okay, but-
How many non-religious Israelis live outside of the
But
country?
wait a minute. What I'm saying is, like, how long?
Personally imposed
How
galut.
many
Okay.
Shemitah Yovels were they before the Galut? There were. Then it was, like now we only have 70 years, but we lived in the land for the two temples until the second. So there were enough Shemitah Yovels then.
Okay.
So
And
then
again,
it was never recorded.
there's no
So
historical
maybe-
record of it being recorded, and there's no somebody
maybe they
saying,
did keep it.
"I told you so."
Wait
So.
a minute. They didn't keep it. We didn't keep our side of the bargain because that's what we got into Galut. So it's proof that we didn't keep it. So maybe that's never been applicable. Because
At
God
some
doesn't-
point.
What at some point? Oh, at some point.
At some point, right.
We did keep it.
No, but okay. So the question is, at some point did we keep it? At some point did we not keep it? It's not something that comes up again and again and enough. It just doesn't
But
come up.
Navi, in the Gemara, but no, not in Navi.
The Gemara is already written. The Gemara is already written after.
When we were living in Israel, and it can be proven. It's just on the books if we weren't living in the land yet. That's the proof is in the pudding when we lived there and there's Shemitah and people that came from that. I'm not talking about when we were in Egypt and there was no Jewish people. So it's only that. I don't know if there's ever been a time in history that it's been shayach even to. Well, we lived in the land for how many years? The two temples combined were like 750 years.
Mm-hmm.
So those 750 years is at least 10 Yovels there, more 20. So it doesn't. So maybe perhaps we know that at some point we didn't keep the Shemitah because that's why we had Galut.
Mm-hmm.
That's maybe not the only reason. So then it's proof that God didn't have to keep His promise because we weren't there. But on the parts that we did keep Shemitah Yovel, hopefully sometimes those times God kept His promise.
So
and
it
we did have the 3
specifically
years.
says when you're in Galut as Tishbot Aretz, then the land is gonna rest
Right.
like it didn't rest when you were there.
When you were there, right? So that's proof that we didn't keep it when we were there. And but I'm sure there must have been some. This thing about the 3 years, it must have been there were some generations that saw that, right? God's promise. Or have we never kept it? Yeah.
You would certainly think so.
You would think so, and you would think it'd be recorded also to say, oh, hey, wait, we did keep it, and God did keep His promise. Because we never see proof about a Korach or someone saying, or a Datan Abiram saying, he promised you and he didn't keep it. So, because that's a very strong thing. It's like the month, 40 years.
This is one of the items that this is one of the items that a lot of people bring up as proof that the Torah is God written, not man-made. Because no man would promise something that is so
proven seeing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm saying that if we weren't in the land long enough to be proven, it would still.
Well, we were certainly in the land much longer than it would take to have a couple of cycles where it didn't happen, even by chance.
Unless we didn't keep it, and there is proof that we didn't keep it because that's why we went into Galut. So maybe we never kept Shemitah yet, but maybe we never kept Yovel.
Again, last week's Parshat. That was to Saha Aretz, is that what it is? Oh.
So
At Shabbatet.
No, but that's before we were in the land. The promises are made in Bahar already before. I'm saying, is there any proof that we ever kept Yovel?
Nope.
So maybe
Or
we
Shemitah.
What? Or no, we kept Shemitah. I'm sure sometimes, maybe not.
I'm gonna have to look for Gemara reference.
Discussions like about
Yeah.
the Kohen Gadol,
Mm-hmm.
Yovel and the Kohen Gadol, the Arei Miklat, and so on. That these things were actually
Right,
active.
they're
Yeah.
Gemara references, so I'm gonna have to look them up over the week. And
What did we settle on you never said the shorts, then we went off topic.
we're gonna research that one as well.
I thought you
We're
did.
gonna ask somebody who knows more about grammar than we do.
Right.
The what?
I have a.
So.
No, we were saying that we had a.
Okay, maybe we're gonna pause the tape now.
Of the tape. Your brothers better listen to this.